this is. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down the agenda that I had created. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to review the Artemis system requirements and setup. So let me pop over to this other document here, kind of make this a little bit bigger real quick, and we'll just kind of go through it. I hope everybody can see that okay. So what we're seeing here is basically this is one of the handouts that I have. So for system requirements, you need to have a PC that's running either Windows Vista, Windows 7, or Windows 8 or 8.1, either in 32 or 64-bit mode. Internet Explorer is the preferred browser that you need to use for the system. At this time, Artemis system is not compatible with Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, or Apple Safari, so you have to use Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer version 9 and above is recommended. That's what's supported by Microsoft as of today. And then we ask that you run Internet Explorer with what they call 32-bit mode instead of 64-bit. If you run into any issues with the system, I would consult with your IT staff. And the reason why we say 32-bit mode and not 64-bit mode is based on everybody's environment. With over 600 school districts, over 500 municipalities, and all the counties, everybody's network environment is configured differently based on security protocols. So again, we try to give these guidelines as a standard, but if you ever run into any problems, we ask that you talk to your IT folks first and have them take a look at it and see where there might be a problem. Again, if there is any issues after that, then you can always contact RMS, and then if there's really issues that they can't resolve, they will forward that call to us, and then we'll try to resolve it from there. You will need Adobe Acrobat Reader or some other PDF reader. We recommend, again, Adobe Acrobat Reader version 8 and above, but if you have Adobe Standard or Professional, that's fine as well too. And then you need a Twain compatible scanner to actually be able to scan the disposition forms, the signed disposition forms, so you're going to be able to upload them into the system to submit them. Now, I know most people have multifunction copier printers that scan. Those are fine. Those all will do, are all Twain compatible, so you can use your copiers to scan these forms in to get them into the system. We have the web link down here. This is the live link. Today we're going to be working in, I'm going to be working in our test system, but that's the link to get to the actual live site. We're probably going to say that the site's going to be ready for you probably around August 1st, that you can actually go in and start registering and setting up your agencies, setting up everything that you're going to see today. Below that, there's a link to training videos. I have published a series of training videos out on YouTube. So if you or any of your staff or anybody else needs some additional training, you can always go to the training videos and kind of review that. And it's going to go through kind of the steps that we're going to go through today. They're actually broken down into 10 different training videos. So again, each one takes on a particular section as we're going through. I talked a little bit earlier about scanning the signed disposition form into the system. These are the specifications that you need to follow in order to scan that form into the system. Now, for the format, a lot of you will say, well, what's a TIFF format? You might not be familiar with that. Everybody's typically familiar with PDF format. Your multifunction copier scanners will all scan in TIFF format. You just actually have to change a setting as you go to scan that one document in. But the format does have to be TIFF format. The color mode needs to be black and white. It has to be a black and white image, not a color image. And the resolution has to be at least 300 dpi. That's what we recommend in order to scan that signed form into the system. If you have a problem seeing stuff on the system, again, I talked a little bit earlier about everybody's networking environment's a little bit different, the way it's set up, or your browser and so on and so forth. If you are having problems seeing screens the correct way or things being displayed the correct way, these are some troubleshooting steps that you could take, some settings on your browser that you can try. One of them might work, two of them might work, or you might need to use all three in order to get it to work correctly. But again, if you run into any problems there, these are kind of the steps that you kind of can follow. Again, if you still have a problem after you've run through all these steps and you've gone through the system requirements at the top, you can always contact the RMS staff, and then we can figure out what's actually going on with your particular computer at that point in time. So again, that's the quick information on hardware settings, specifications, the links and all that. And like I said, you should be able to get that document from the handout. So just give me 1 second here. See real quick. Okay, so somebody said no handouts. Okay, I'll need to check on that. I thought they were available to everybody. If you don't have them, again, we will get them to you, and we'll get them pushed out to everybody so they get a copy of those handouts. So, okay, so let's move on here. So that's the system requirements. So I'm going to pop over to the system here. Okay, everybody can see my screen now. Let's see here. Let's go to this screen. Okay, so everybody should be able to see now my login screen for Artemis. So that link that I had said earlier that you'll get, this will take you to the login screen of Artemis. Now, since everybody that's new to this, and I'm going to assume that everybody that's attending today's webinar is what we're considering the records manager or the custodian of their particular organization. So the first thing that you're going to need to do before you can utilize the system at all is you're going to need to register. You're going to need to register your organization. And part of that registration process is you'll go in, you'll fill out a form, which we're going to do in a few seconds. And then once you fill out that form, what's going to happen is that registration will be sent over to RMS. They're going to review that registration, and once they review that, they're going to either most likely accept it or they can possibly reject it. Because there are times that people do try to register as a records manager that aren't truly a records manager of an organization. So in that case, the RMS staff would actually reject, saying, please have your records manager register for an organization. But the way you would do that is you would actually come here where it says New Agencies Register here. You click on this link. Just give it a second. Coming to the next screen here. But when you click on this link, what you're going to do is you're going to see a form that you need to fill out. And there's going to be 3 sections to this form that you need to complete. But the most important part of this form is actually going to be the top section of the form. There's going to be a question at the top that's going to say, are you the records manager of this organization? And this question here is basically one of the important ones that you're going to want to answer yes, because by answering yes, this is going to give you basically the admin rights for your organization to be able to go in and manage everything for your organization, not just to submit or create and submit disposition requests, but also to create new users for your organization and register your other agencies for your organization. So the first thing we're going to do here is where it says organization type, what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down and we're going to pick Board of Education. Okay. Once you do that, to the right, you're going to pick which county you're in. Okay, so let me go with, I'll take Bergen County for my first county. And then from there, what we'll do is we'll pick the municipality that your school district is located in. So here I'm going to go down and say Artemis Borough. And then from here, actually, let me do another one because I think that one's already registered. Let me try Ramsey. Oh, no. Okay, so let me go back to Paramus. Sorry, my fault. And then once you do that, we're not even going to select an agency. What we're going to do is we're going to click on, are you the records manager for your organization? We're going to click on yes. Okay. And when we do that, the drop down for the agency will go blank because what we want to do is we want to register you first as the records manager for that organization. Again, this is an important step. Okay, because if you just click no and you picked an agency from the right-hand side, what would happen is you would just be considered a user within the system. You wouldn't actually be the records manager, and that wouldn't give you any access to create new users and manage the system. So again, very important that we answer this question yes when we first go in. Once we do that, there's now 3 sections down below that you're going to need to complete. Okay, so let me go in here. I'm going to complete a couple of sections here real quick. And I'm going to fill in this information real quick. And just go through them. Now, after I put my first name, my last name, and again the login name, now you'll see in blue, in parentheses, underneath some of these fields, there are certain requirements that you'll need to follow. So for example, for login name, your login name will have to be generally 6 to 15 characters in length. Typically, most people will use the first initial last name, but just I'm going to caution you, just be aware that this system is utilized throughout the state. As I mentioned earlier, there's already 5,000 users registered in the system. So if you have a common name, it's very possible that your name might, or somebody else might have a similar name where they registered that already in the system. It's similar like if you go try to register a new user account with Gmail or Yahoo, it might tell you that username that you picked is already in use. So at that point in time, you just have to pick a different username. But again, following the guidelines between 6 and 15 characters in length. Same thing with your password. Your password needs to be has to be greater than 6 characters, okay? It cannot be the same as your login name, but we recommend that you use a combination of letters and numbers and even special characters when you create your login name. So I'm just going to create my password here. Okay. Then it's also going to ask you for a PIN number. Okay, a PIN number is, we utilize this at one section of the system where you'll see a little bit later on. It's typically a 4 to 6 digit PIN number. So again, just pick at least 4 digits. So just pick yourself a PIN number and confirm that as we're going through. And then let's put in, you have to put in your phone number and then your email address. I'm going to actually just use my email address. Okay. Now, any field that has a red asterisk next to it is a required field, so you're going to have to enter something in that particular field as we go along. Now, that was the primary user information, and again, these 3 sections, since you're the records manager custodian of records for your organization and you're registering, you can actually put your name in all 3 sections. To make that a little bit easier, what we do is there is a checkbox here that you can check to pull down some of the fields from above that match, okay, instead of having to re-enter them. So if I just click on this little checkbox and I'll say OK, the fields that match from above will be pulled down. And then the fields that aren't answered, I'll just have to fill in. So I'm just going to put in here records manager. I'm just going to put my address here. But obviously, you'll put in your address of your organization. And then the same thing at the bottom where it says records manager information. Again, I can pull down either the primary user information or even the agency user information just by clicking on one of these boxes. In this case, I'm just going to pull down the primary user information. It'll fill it in for me. And at the very bottom, before I need to submit this request to the state, okay, there's 2 things I need to do. They don't have any terms and conditions right now. Originally, they were going to have some terms and conditions. As of right now, there are none, but you still have to click on the I accept. Okay, so just click on that checkbox. And then you're going to electronically sign this, okay, by putting your name in the box there. And then once you do that, what you'll do is you'll click on request registration. And what the system's going to do now is going to tell you that your agency registration request acknowledgement has been sent. Okay, so again, this registration has been sent to the state. It's now going to be in their queue, and now they can actually go in and they can review that. Now you should also get, I should have logged in here. Let me log into my email real quick. And just to show you, what will happen is an email should be sent to let you know that your registration has been sent to the state, right? So we can see that right here. Okay, so I got an email that says that my registration has been sent. And then once the state approves it, what you'll do is you'll end up getting an email back letting you know that you can actually log into the system. So even though you created your login information and your password and all that and you submitted that, you're still not able to log into the system at this point in time until the state actually approves that particular registration within the system. So let me just confirm that registration. Give me 1 second here. I'm on 2 systems here, so I can do this for you. Agency request. And get that. Okay, so I just accepted it on the other system I'm in. And if I jump back over to my email, you'll notice here, here's the email that came in that says, congratulations, your agency has been successfully registered in the Artemis e-services website. So again, when you get this email back, at that point in time, you'll be able to go in, you'll be able to actually sign into the system and start utilizing the system. So again, that's the whole registration process that we just went through right there. So let me just check any questions real quick, see if we have some questions here. Okay, somebody says I was able to access the handouts, good. Somebody says we'll send him to the middle of, okay, handouts available, can see them. Let's just go back here, just kind of going through. Yep, just going through. Yeah, some people are saying that their screens are freezing. You'll maybe just have to refresh your webinar as you're going through. Sometimes, again, based on your network environment or whatever, there are times that, you know, I know that that happens. So let me go back here real quick. Just make sure. Okay, so you should see, I hope everybody's back at my login screen now. They should see my login screen. And again, I'm going to just pop back into this new registration here real quick, just so everybody can see the registration screen if they missed it or something happened or whatever. But this is what the registration screen looks like, okay? And again, the couple areas that I went over was, you know, you're going to pick Board of Education. These are the important ones at the top. Board of Education, your county, and then from there what you'll do is you'll pick your municipality. And from there what you'll do is you'll pick records manager, and at that point in time then you can fill out the rest of the information down below. So, again, if you missed that, I'm sorry, but again, that's everything right there to kind of go through. And again, we can go over that. We can go over that at the end. If people miss that, I'll be more than happy to kind of run through that again. So just as an FYI, okay? So give me 1 second here. Okay, so let me go back out to the login screen, and let me just make sure everybody's seeing my screen. Okay, so at this point in time, what we have here is we're at the login screen. So I'm going to actually log into the system. But before I do that, one of the things I do want to point out, I do know most people when they do disposition requests, and again, my experience has been, especially with municipalities and counties, is a lot of times people kind of do this disposition request process once a year, okay? And from there, they forget what their username or their password was that they used the prior year. Well, we do have a forgot password retrieval method. Right here on the login screen, if you happen to forget your password, if you click on forgot password, what you'll need to at least remember is what the username was that you utilized, and I recommend that once you do register, you do write down your username and password and keep that in a safe place so you have it for reference when you go back in. But what you can do here is you can actually put in the information, okay, I actually use my username. Okay, and then I'm going to put in my email address. And actually, I'm going to just put in the wrong email address because I just want to show you real quick. But if I put in my username and my email address and I click on Get Password, it's going to tell me here email address provided is not valid. Okay, so again, if you didn't use the correct email address or you didn't use the correct username, either one will tell you that it wasn't valid, right? So if I put in my correct email address, but let's say I put in the wrong username, right, then it's going to tell me username provided is not valid. So again, the system will tell you if one or the other is not valid, but if both are valid, username and email address, and I click on Get Password, it will let me know that an email has been sent to the email address provided, and you will receive that email or that password within your email. So again, those two have to match in order to get that, but I just wanted to show you that in case you do forget your password, you can click on that forgot password link right there. Okay, so let's log into the system now. So I'm going to put in my username and password. and I'm going to log into the system. Now this is going to take me to the home screen on the Artemis home screen, okay? And what I quickly want to do real quick is just kind of go over a quick layout of this home screen, just so everybody can kind of see the features and everything of what to do on this home screen. Starting in the upper right-hand corner, okay, we have some links here. It says Home, My Profile, Contact Us, Help, and FAQ. As I mentioned, this is the home screen. If you ever find yourself somewhere in the system, you don't know how you got there, if you just click on this home link, it'll take you back out to this home screen, okay? You can kind of start all over. The My Profile link, all users that are set up on the system, they can click on the My Profile link to go in to update some of their information within the system. Now, that information that you might want to update is, you know, let's say if you're a woman, you got married, and your last name recently changed, you want to change it from your maiden name to your married name, you can come in here and update that. You can also update and change your password and your PIN number in the screen, or your phone number, okay? The only thing you will not be able to update in the screen is your login name. So basically, the stuff that's up in the top section here on the user profile, that information cannot be changed. Only the stuff down below here is the information that can be changed. And once you change your information, you know, let's say I put in an extension for my phone number, you will click on Update User Profile, and what you'll do is you'll get a message in green that says your user profile has been updated successfully. Anytime you do an action in the system and you update or save or whatever, you always want to see a message up at the top of the screen in green that says that action has been done successfully. If it hasn't been done successfully, you'll generally receive an error message. Okay, let me just do this real quick. I'll change my phone number here, right? Because I took out the 0 in my phone number. It's not a valid phone number, so it says in red, please enter a valid work phone number. Okay, so again, if you do or try to save or update something within the system and it doesn't meet the guidelines, you will get a message up at the top in red to alert you that that has been saved. So again, I just wanted to kind of show you those quick things. Let me come back out to the home screen. Contact Us, again, I mentioned earlier, for Contact Us, your first point of contact will be the RMS hotline. So this link is kind of disabled right now. We do have a help link. There is an online help manual for the system. Besides the training videos that I mentioned earlier that are on YouTube, there is a help manual here. I'm not going to open it right now. The manual is over 100 pages. There is an index in the front, so if you want to kind of go through that on your own, you can kind of go through that on your own. FAQs are pretty much the system requirements I talked about a little bit earlier. Like I said, I created a handout for you. So what you could do is basically just follow the handout for those system requirements. Down below, you should see the type of organization you are. You're going to be Board of Education. You'll see your organization name listed, and then your username, and then which agency you're currently registered to with that username. And this happens to be what we call the main general agency schedule. To the left-hand side is a menu bar, and you see me with my cursor moving over. Okay, and with that, if I hold my cursor there, disposition management, retention schedule, system management, reports, there's different tasks underneath that. We've actually pulled those menu items down to these square boxes on the screen down below, except for the one which is reports. We didn't pull that down to the main screen. So under disposition management, where it says create disposition request and search disposition request, that's the same two items here. They're no different. So these two match these two. This here matches this, and these items match these items here. Now, in the lower left-hand corner is what we call our inbox, okay, or our dashboard. This kind of gives you a quick view when you first log into the system to know what's actually going on within the system, okay? So, for example, disposition request, what we call work in progress, that's a request that you've created but haven't submitted yet to the state. It's what we call work in progress. Right now, all these task items are 0, except for the last one, which I'll explain in a second. But if you see a number in parentheses greater than 0, okay, it means there's certain tasks being worked on in that section, right? I don't have anything yet. We haven't created anything yet. We will in a couple seconds, and you'll see these numbers come up. The last one is published retention schedules. Again, the state, believe it or not, these are the amount of different retention schedules they work on, okay? Because, again, they're managing retention schedules for every municipality, every county, every Board of Education, and every state agency in the state. So these are the amount of different retention schedules that they work on. And you have to remember, too, each retention schedule, you know, could have, a couple of hundred record series on it. So they're literally managing, well over 30,000 different record series throughout the entire state, for retention policy. So again, just to give you some idea of how much they're working with there. So again, this is our home screen here. Just wanted to give you a quick layout of the home screen. These are all quick links, so if you just click on these, they'll take you into those different sections. So again, that's our home screen layout. So when you first register in the system, the next thing or the next step that you need to do, and this is a one-time step, okay, is you need to register each retention schedule that's associated with the Board of Education, okay? And there's, I think, 5 different retention schedules that are associated. Now, we call them registered new agency, and a lot of this comes over from the municipalities and counties because each department or agency has their own retention schedule at the municipal and the county level. At the Board of Ed level, I'm not really sure if you consider them separate departments, and you'll see when I pull up these schedules, or if you, as the records manager or custodian, kind of handle everything in one shot on your own, that's fine as well too. But this registered new agency step needs to be done. Like I said, it's a one-time step. I would recommend that the first time you sign up in the system and you have access to the system, the very first thing you do is you go in and register all these retention schedules in the system. And then once you've done that, you're done. You'll never have to do it again, okay? And the way you do that is you're going to come up here, you're going to click on Register New Agency, okay? And it's similar to the registration that I did before. You'll notice up at the top of the screen that there's boxes that are already grayed out, organization type, county, municipality, Board of Ed. Those are already grayed out because they've already been selected for you. The system knows who you are. But over to the right where it says agencies, these are the different schedules you need to register within the system. Now, I don't know if every Board of Ed utilizes each one of these schedules, and I apologize. Board of Ed to me is something new. I've been working with municipalities and counties for the last 7 years. So I'm not really sure if you submit this disposition request for every record series on each one of these schedules, but if you do, definitely go in and register each one, especially the administration one, I think. That one and probably the student and financial ones are probably the ones that you probably use the most, I would assume. But let me click on administration, and then here again, you can utilize your same information that you utilized earlier when you did your registration. I'll just quickly add this in. Okay. Now, the fields up above, most of these are required fields up above in the agency. You do not have to fill out the records manager information. If you're the person that's registering, maybe you're the administrator or whatever of records, but you have an actual records manager, you can add his or her name here if it's different. If it's you, you could just click on, again, the checkbox that says I want to copy the information above. Hold on one second. Okay. You can click on that checkbox, okay, or you can fill it in. But once you do that, I'm not going to fill it in right now. I'm going to click on register, okay, and what I'm going to get here is I should get a message up in top in green that tells me this agency has been registered successfully, okay. Once I'm done that, when I go to my drop-down list on the right of agencies, if an agency has been registered, it will no longer appear on the list. So when you go into register new agency, if you have a schedule or an agency listed there on the list, it means it hasn't been registered yet, okay? So what I would suggest is you just go through this one time, do this, register all these. Once the list is empty, all those agencies have now been registered within the system. So again, first step, go in, register your agencies, and then you're pretty good at that point in time. So let me pause there. I know we're going through a lot here. Let me just take a look at some questions real quick here. Okay, so some of the questions, can I have multiple people register under an agency contact information section or section? Yes, we're going to go over registering additional users in the system next, so just bear with me there tomorrow. Hi, I'm trying to register and I'm unable to select the municipality Board of Ed. We are a Board of Ed. Okay, Don't try to do anything in the live system yet. As I mentioned earlier, the system is not quite ready yet. We're looking around the 1st of August to have the system ready for you to use. So if you're trying to go in and register right now, there might be some issues, so please don't try to go in and register at this point in time. But if you're trying to register in a test system, I don't know if you grab my URL or something like that, just message me back and we'll take a look at that. Let's see, webinar not shown. What are you doing again? Okay, I hope everybody could see me. Yeah, see, people are saying they're trying to register. Again, if you didn't hear me earlier on, if you're trying to get into the live system, do not try to register at this point in time. There are some changes still being worked out with that process. Okay, so let me just clear out some of these real quick here so I can have a fresh screen. Sorry about that, folks. Just makes it easier when I'm going through the questions if I have current questions coming up. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to talk about registering users within the system, okay? And we have different user roles within the system. So let me kind of go over the different user roles here with you and kind of discuss that. Let me just bear with me here. Okay, close that. Okay, so we have different user roles within the system. Now, to register a user, okay, you can go to right here in the system management section, add a user. Now, my first thing that I would do, I tell everybody, is especially if you've been in the system for a while, let's say it's a year or two later, and somebody says, I need to get access to the system, the first thing I would tell you to do is go in and search users. Make sure that person's not already registered in the system, but maybe forgot their username. Or even if they did, as the records manager, custodian, administrator of the system, you can actually go in, search for all users, and you can actually update their password or their information as well, too. You have that right. I'm just going to click search in the beginning, and you'll see here what I'm getting is I'm just getting the one user, myself, who's already registered within the system, come up in the list. But if there were other users registered, you would see all those users listed there. So again, that's the easy way to see all users registered in the system. You could break it down up at the top. There are some search criteria fields up at the top that you can search based on, a user's first name, last name, login name, type of role they are. So if you want to search those type of users, you can. Now, you'll notice that my role is considered an agency records manager. That's one type of user in the system, okay? So let me go back here. Let me go back out to the home screen. Let's go to add a new user, and let me tell you about the different types of users in the system, okay? Two users that are registered at the main, what we call Board of Education, the M700,000 level, are a records manager. So again, I registered as a records manager. Records manager has access to all abilities within the system, so they can do all functions in the system. They can create new users, they can disable users, they can register new agencies, so on and so forth. So that user is basically the administrator of the system. We do recommend, however, that you generally have a second person as a records manager, an agency records manager, as a backup. And for reasons, if you're out on vacation, unfortunately you get sick or something, there's somebody else that can actually manage the system. So we recommend that you have one or two, at least two records managers within the system. Can you have more? Absolutely. But I wouldn't go crazy and make everybody a records manager. The other type of user you have at this level is what we call a multi-agency records user, okay? Now, as I mentioned earlier, and again, some of this comes over more from the municipality and the county levels, okay? But a multi-agency user can actually create disposition requests for any agency that's registered, okay? So if you're probably going to want to register all your users as either, again, an agency records manager or a multi-agency user. The other two users that probably will not apply to you, okay, because of the type of organization you are, and I'm just going to pick administration as the agency. Those type of users or other two users can be either an agency administrator or a regular user. But those two users are only restricted to this retention schedule. They will not be able to create disposition requests for any other retention schedule that you have registered. So that's why I said for the Board of Ed, I don't think it really applies that you need to utilize the agency administrator and the regular user. I think at your level, you're pretty much just going to register everybody as a multi-agency user just so they'll have access to be able to submit disposition requests for all agencies that you register or all schedules that you schedule. And again, you could come in here quickly and just fill out the information. First name, last name, phone number, email address, PIN number, confirm the PIN number, create them a login name, a password, and then confirm the password as well too, and then click on save to add them into the system. Again, I'm not going to go through all that, but you just need to follow the guidelines just like you did when you registered within the system. That will get you, set up in the system and have that user set up. Once you set up that user now immediately can go in, log into the system, and start working within the system. There is no waiting period like it was when you registered. RMS does not have to approve users that you set up. The only user that RMS needs to approve is that initial user who registers as that records manager for that organization. But once you're in the system, you can actually go in and register multiple users, and they're immediately available to log into the system. So again, that's how you go in and you register a user. Let me go back out to my home screen, kind of going through my review section here. Okay, so we're back to my home screen. Okay, so here we're at my home screen. Okay, so in the next section, what we're going to do is now we're going to start to get into actually how to use the system. So again, I kind of went over the housekeeping items first, just so you understand what you need to do to get the system set up. So now let's get into really, once you're all set up and everybody's set up in the system, well, how do we start utilizing the system? The first thing I tell people, and like I said, I've been working with municipalities and counties now for the last 7 years with records management, not just in the Artemis system, but a couple other systems that Sunrise has that pertains to records management. And one of the things that I find most of the time when people are working with records is they need to understand the record they're working with. And what I mean by that is they need to understand what the retention policies of that record is. Now, the state or RMS constantly makes changes to retention schedules and record policies and record series and so on and so forth. Doesn't necessarily mean they apply to all the Board of Ed record series, but throughout the state, whether it's at the state level, the county, the municipal level, Board of Ed level, they are constantly making changes to retention schedules. And, in the past, what most people have done is they've gone out to the state website, they've downloaded the retention schedules from the state site, and they've utilized those schedules. They'll make a printout, they'll keep a printout in a file, and then they'll keep referring back to that printout whenever they need to find information. The problem with that is that if I download a printout today from the state site, and let's say a week from now, the SRC approves some new policy changes for some of my record series, and I pull out that schedule next year, okay, well, I'm going to have inaccurate information because now there's updated information on this record series, right? So, some people might go back out to the site and print out a new schedule, but I've seen people utilize that same printout that they've had for, when I talk about years and years and years, I've seen people using retention schedules that they literally printed out 15, 20 years ago, and they're still using them today, thinking that they're still valid. And that runs into a problem later on because when they're trying to do a disposition request, it's going to tell them that the number is not valid and they don't understand why. But one of the things that we did within the Artemis system to make it easier for everybody is we give you the ability to search every retention schedule that's associated with your organization. So even though I only registered the one retention schedule today, okay, every retention schedule that's associated with the Board of Education, all 6 of those retention schedules, you can search every single one of them at one shot by going into search retention schedule, okay? So let me click on that, search retention schedule. And when this screen opens up, the first thing I'm going to do is under organization type, I'm going to pick Board of Education because I just want to limit my searching to the Board of Education, okay? So again, I'm going to select Board of Education. Now the 2 common fields that most people utilize to search are by record series title, which you'll find right here, and also description, right? Those are the 2 common fields that most people utilize to search. So let's say I wanted to search for a record series or a retention policy that pertains to students, right? And so I'm going to type in the word students, right, keyword, kind of like a Google type search. I'm going to click on search. And now the system's going to bring back to me, okay, a list of everywhere it found students in the record series title. Now you'll notice that, again, even though I didn't have the agencies registered yet, it's still going to search and it's still going to look at each retention schedule for Board of Education. So now it brought back one record series from the administration schedule, one from curriculum and instruction, and one from the student schedule. And if I look at the record series titles, okay, you'll see that the word students is somewhere within that title. Now, I utilize students, plural, okay, for a reason, because you have to be careful. Sometimes that record series title might say student and not students, right? So watch this. If I just remove the S from students and just have student and now do a search, instead of 3 record series coming up, I now have 45 record series that come up, okay? Now I can kind of go through and I can look a little bit further. So one of the things that I caution you is that when you go in, you want to, do a quick search based on record series title, use single keywords. That's the easiest way to go in and search and try to find your record series, okay? Now, again, if you've been working with retention schedules and record series titles for a while, you always know that the record series title might not match what you call a record, right? So sometimes you need to be creative, right? You need to use different keywords to try to help find, that record series that you need to utilize. But again, I think most of the time, most people, by putting in that first keyword and knowing what that record is, most of the time that's going to come up, right? And as you can see now I have 45 record, results that came up from my search. Now, we only display 15 per screen or 10 per screen. So what you'll need to do is just click on page 2 to go to the second screen, page 3, page 4, and so on and so forth to actually go from screen to screen. What you'll see on here is on the left-hand side, you'll see what schedule they're from, okay? You'll see what schedule number or version number. The status is published. We always show you published record series. So these are the most current record series as of today, okay? So if the state made a change yesterday and it was approved yesterday and they updated that published schedule, today you have the most accurate information in the system right here for you to look at, okay? You see what the record series title is. There's no citations here. And then at the very end, you have a details button, okay? And basically, the details button will give you more information on that particular record series, right? So let me go into the last one here. Actually, let me find one. This one, adult education student/pupil file, right? And click on details. Have this open up, and we'll take a look at the details and basically what the retention policy is of this particular record series. Okay, so here is the detail screen of this record series. So the first thing, a couple things I want to point out here. Let me get my little highlighter here, pen, just so I can kind of. Okay. So right here is going to be your record series number. Okay. Now you always want to look at the status. You want to see a status that says active. Okay. And the reason for that is because as the state sometimes will retire or make certain record series obsolete. If you try to use a record series number that's no longer active, either retired or obsolete, the system will not allow you to use it. So again, you always want to make sure that your record series says active within the system. This is your record series title here. If the state has put any additional description into that record series, that will be displayed right here. And then down in this section here is really kind of the important section, right? This is really the retention policy section of that record. Now, the first item that comes up, it says permanent record, yes or no, okay? If this said yes, all these other fields below would be not applicable, right? Because again, it's a permanent record. You can't get rid of it. But since this is not a permanent record, then we take a look what our retention time is. Oh, see, I picked a good one here. Here's a 100-year retention policy, right? So for this type of record, this adult education student record/pupil file, you need to keep this 100 years. If there was any additional information regarding retention policy, it would be listed here. There are times that certain records need to be kept at the agency level. What I mean by that, they need to be kept within your department before you can actually box them up and store them away, like in a storage facility or storage area. Again, at the Board of Education level, I don't know if this necessarily applies. It does apply both at county, municipal, and state for some record series. So again, if you had to keep records at a specific period of time within your local department, it would list it there. Again, any additional info relating to the agency information. And then down below, the last couple items is the final disposition. So after 100 years, what can I do with this record. At that point in time, you can destroy it, right? Most of the stuff is going to say destroy. You will see some other different types of disposition methods. You could have like erase or like for like tapes or CDs or something. It might say erase or something, but most of your records are just going to say destroy. And then down below, where it says archival review, alternate meeting recommended, and order verification required. The archival review I don't think will apply to you, so you should not see a yes in there. But the alternate media recommended, if that says yes, the state is telling you that they recommend that you put these records onto microfilm. Okay, so if this is yes, it's a recommendation that they're put onto microfilm to preserve a copy of them. And then the audit verification required, yes or no, that lets you know if your auditor needs to sign off on that disposition request, because those that record series is an audit record series. If this says no, then technically you don't need to have your disposition request signed off on. And I know that most organizations do send everything to the auditor naturally, but you don't need to typically do that. The bottom section revolves more around statutes. So if there's certain statutes that are required for particular record series, those would be listed down below. Again, I'm not sure at the Board of Ed level if there's any state statutes that apply to your record series. Definitely at the county and municipal level there are. Now, for the people who like paper, okay, and I know there's a lot of people out there and they still want to get a copy of that retention schedule, again, you can go out to the state site and get that retention schedule. I will tell you that even the state site there could be a lag on getting the most recent schedule published on the state site. But if you're in this screen here and you click on the print button in the lower right-hand corner, okay, what will happen is the screen will come up and it will give you a, let me just show this, yep, okay, just so you can see it. This is, again, the retention schedule, okay, so for this particular curriculum and instruction retention schedule, this is the entire retention schedule. So, again, you can print this out. Again, I don't typically recommend printing this out. Just for the reason that it could be outdated tomorrow, but you can. This is a PDF form, so you can actually save a copy of this on your computer instead of wasting paper. But again, it's available there for you by clicking on that print button. You can actually go in there and print this at any point in time and have the most up-to-date retention policies in a printed form. So again, just click on that print button, and that will update that information. Now, once I'm done, okay, if I want to go back and search another or look for another record series, I click on back to search results. Okay, it'll take me back out to this, back out to my screen here. Okay, and now I can go into look at details of another record if I want to or not. Now, if I want to clear this out and I want to do another search, I can just click the clear button at the bottom. Right, clears everything out. But you can just remember you'll have to pick Board of Ed again from organization type and then pick your new keyword. One other thing I just want to show you here. Let's search by student by description. Let's say you did a keyword search by record series title, but you still weren't able to find what you were looking for. Well, you can also search by description. So if RMS has put in a description into any record series that has that keyword student in it, okay, it'll come up. Now, in this case, by putting student in the description field, I have 50 records that came up. But if you look at particularly the second record of the second line, no, sorry, that one has students in it. I was looking for a line, okay, third line. If you look at the record series title of the third line, it says Middle School Association of Colleges and Schools Accreditation, Commission on Elementary, Secondary Schools, Public and Non-Public. You don't see the word student anywhere in the title, okay? That's because we searched the description for that record series, right? And if I put my cursor on that, maybe it's too big. Let's go into the details. Look at the details. It might be too big. Here's the description that came up. And then somewhere here in this description, okay, we will find the word student. Let me see if I can find it real quick. All right, right. So right here is the word student, okay? So that's why that record series came up. Even though student wasn't anywhere in the record series title, it still came up because it was student was in the description. So again, it's just another way to search when you're looking for your record series. Again, the one benefit of being able to quickly search in the system is that I don't have to flip page after page after page trying to find the record series, okay? And I know most people who have done that, especially with the larger retention schedules, you might flip through an entire retention schedule. You might have looked through 100 record series trying to find a record series number that fit for your record, and you get to the end and you're like, oh, I couldn't find a record series number. Well, let me go through it again a little bit more slowly. And you do it again, and you might still not find what you're looking for because maybe that record series that you were looking for was on a different schedule. It wasn't on the schedule that you're currently looking for. And again, that's why it makes it so much easier here that when you're in this screen, oh, let me get out of here, let me get rid of my pen. That's why when you're here on this search screen, you can actually search every single retention schedule for the Board of Ed in one shot using those keywords. So again, that's how we go in, that's how we search retention schedules. So I'm going to pause there for a second. I'm going to look at my question list real quick. Let's see here. Do I have anything coming up? Chat. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. I don't have anything pending, or I have to wait for it to come up. I think I X'd out of it. Sorry, I'll just wait for it to pop up one more time. So, okay. So let me look at my agenda here real quick, just going through here. I know we're running on an hour here, so I'm going to try to get us wrapped up here within the next half hour. Okay, so the next section, now we're going to get into the heart of the system. We've now searched retention schedules. We've found all the record series numbers that I need to utilize. Okay, now I'm going to go in, and now I'm going to create my disposition request. Okay, so in the disposition management section, we have a link here that says create disposition request. So we're going to click on that request. Open up this screen, and when we come to this screen, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick which agency we're doing this for, okay, and this is going to be administration, okay, and then we need to pick which schedule that we're going to utilize. We're going to pick the administration schedule, okay, so we pick those two fields. The requester, I'm the requester, so my name's going to come up here, okay, so it's going to be listed there. I can put my title in if I wanted to. Okay. If you have a custodian's name, if somebody else, if you're the person who does the request, but you actually have a custodian, you can put their name in. If it's your administrator, your BA, you can put his or her name in there or whatever, just so it's listed. Below that, you have a couple different checkboxes here. One says microfilm present, one says digital image present, one says damage record certificate. Again, these are not common checkboxes that you would normally use, but there are people out there that typically will put their records onto microfilm in order to destroy the paper record again. So if you have, if you're submitting a request for records that you've placed on microfilm and you're trying to request destruction of the paper record prior to its retention policy expiration, you would click on this checkbox here. For the people who are scanning out there, again, if you scan records into a certified state system and you're requesting disposal of those paper records prior to their expiration date, retention expiration date, you would check digital image present. And then for records that have been, what we call damage, whether it's flood, fire, hurricane, whatever, okay, and you've received a damage record certificate from the state, you've gone through that process, you would click these checkboxes. And one thing is that if you click any of these checkboxes, you will need to upload, along with your disposition, signed disposition form, you will need to upload a copy of that certificate along with your disposition request and submit that to the state. They have to go hand in hand. So again, these aren't common checkboxes that people do utilize, but there are some organizations out there that definitely do utilize that. The location box is where your records are currently stored. This is for your reference only, right? So, so I put in basement there. RIM request ID doesn't apply to you. And then you have a comment section. This comment section is general comments that you're going to send to the RMS staff when you submit this request, right? So you can, I'm just going to have a nice day, right? So that's my request that I'm going to send over to them. But again, you could put any comments that you feel you need to communicate to them when you submit this request, and they will see those comments when they get that request. Now, down below, its system is set up for me to put in my first record series number. Now, I can do one of two things. I can come in here and I can type in my number, right? So let me pick a number here, right? So you put the first 4 digits in, second 4 digits, and I'm just going to move over. The system will automatically fill in the record series title. It will tell you what the retention period is, and then it will take you to the from field and to fields, right? So now I got to put in my date range. So We just utilize month and year, right? And I recommend that you always go from the beginning of the year, January of a particular year, through the end of whatever year those records apply to. Now, one of the things you can do in the system, okay, is that you can span consecutive years, right? So let's say I have these agendas and minutes, okay, from 2001 to 2003, okay? I have 3 years worth. I can do those, I can span those years. But let's say I have minutes from 2001 to 2003. For some reason, maybe I already disposed of records for 2004, 2005, but I have records that I can dispose of from 2006 to 2008. If those years do not span consecutively, then you would have to do 2 different line items, okay, or 2 different lines. So I'll show you what I mean. So let's say here I'm going to say, okay, this is cubic feet, volume. How much in cubic feet do we have that we're going to dispose of? I'm going to say this is 2 cubic feet, okay. I put my first line in, okay. I've entered, my medium type is paper. Again, there's other forms of medium you can request, but generally most of the time it's going to be paper. Now, once I put my first line in, one thing I would recommend is click Save after every line that you put in. The reason for that is, for security reasons, the system could log you out. If you're logged into the system and haven't done any activity in the system for a period of time, the system will log you out for security reasons, right? And if you put in all these line items and you haven't hit Save, you're going to lose what you did, okay? So I always recommend that as you're going line by line by line, you click Save, just so whatever you've done up to that point has been saved within the system. Now I put my first line in the minutes, right? Now I want to add another line. Now I can do one of 2 things. I can either add one additional row or I can add multiple rows. I'm going to do 1 row for right now, right? And again, I'm going to put in that same, I'm going to put in the same record series number. Or what I can also do, instead of putting the number, if I don't know the number, I can click on this question mark here, okay, in the record series number field, right? And what you should get here is you should get a little pop-up box. And from here are all the record series numbers for this schedule in numerical order, right? And then I can quickly go down, and once I find what I'm looking for, I can just click on that number. And what it will do is it will automatically populate that. So again, by clicking on that question mark, you'll be able to go in and find that. So here, I'm going to say there was a gap, right? So I'll say 2005 through 12/2008. Okay. It's paper, and I'm going to say this is 2 cubic feet as well, too. And then I'm going to click Save. And as you notice, when I'm clicking Save, upper left-hand corner, I get in green, Disposition, saved successfully, right? So we've been saving. So now we're going to go down and we're going to add a couple of other items. Now we can add what we call multiple rows. If I have more than 1 row I want to add, more than 1 record series, to make things a little bit easier, when I click on the Add Multiple Rows, what it's going to do is going to display a similar box that I showed before, right? The only difference is here now, there's little check boxes next to these, right? So I can kind of scroll down and say, okay, I want this record series, and let's say I want this one, and let's say I want this one here. Right? And once I select all those and hit OK, then the system is going to list all those items that I checked off and it's going to populate them. At this point in time, I need to just go in and I need to put in my date. So I'm going to say this one is 01/2005. Oops. Sorry, mistyped there. Through 12/2005. 1 box. This one I'm going to say is 01/2005 to 12/2005. 1 box. And this one, I'm going to say 1/2005, 12/2005. I'm going to use the same date. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to hit Save. And now all those new line items that I've added have now been saved in the system. But now let me show you a couple other things real quick. Now, if you look at the last line I added, right, the retention period says permanent. Okay? Well, I picked the wrong record series. Maybe I clicked on the wrong, record series number or whatever. No problem. If I've added a record series to my form, my disposition form here that I don't want to submit, very simply, just go over to the right-hand side, click on the X, okay? What that'll do is that will actually delete this. It says, are you sure you want to delete this record? Okay. Let me do that one more time. I'm going to hit OK. Okay. And now that record has been deleted. Okay. So again, I click on that, it deletes that record. Now I have 4 records left over. Now one of the things I also wanted to show you was, in this column here, it says dispose after, and you see a date in this column. It says 12/20/15. That's kind of like a warning, okay? It's telling you that based on the date range that I put in for that record series and based on the retention policy, I technically can't dispose of this until December of this year, okay? So you might want to check your dates. So if you see any dates ever populated in this column, you might want to check your dates to make sure you have the right dates. Maybe this should have been 2004, not 2005, right? So let's say it's 2004 instead, and I move over. Now you'll notice that that date, dispose after date, goes away because now I'm over 10 years for that record based on the dates. Now some people ask, well, Mark, why do you allow us to put in an item that, you know, I can't technically dispose of until the end of the year or some date in the future? Well, the reason for that is, as I mentioned earlier, for people who are doing microfilm and scanning, they are allowed to request disposal of those records prior to its expiration date. So that's why we do allow them to still put that within the system. We give you a warning, you know, to let you know that, you know, the dispose after date is greater in the future. But again, you could choose to, you know, remove it, submit it, whatever. I mean, if you submit it, obviously it's going to be rejected. But if not, you know, it's just going to be submitted at that point in time. Okay, so now I've added all my record series. So let's say today I'm done, right? It's end of the day, 5 o'clock. I'm going home, but I'm not done. I still have more records, more filing cabinets and boxes I need to go through tomorrow. That's fine. You can log off the system. You can come back in tomorrow, next week, next month, and you can continue this request. And when you log into the system, what you'll notice now I'm going to show you in the dashboard, okay, when I log back into the system, you'll notice now in the inbox where it says disposition request work in progress, I have a 1 in there. Before I had a 0. Now I have a 1, okay? I click on that, it's going to bring up all the disposition requests that I'm currently working on. And I might have multiple, okay? And the reason why I might have multiple is one of the things that you're not going to be able to do that maybe you've done in the past is that record series from different retention schedules cannot be mixed. So if I have, let's say we said there's 6 different retention schedules for the Board of Education, right? So if I have the administration schedule and then I have record series from the curriculum, student and curriculum schedule, I'm going to have to create 2 separate disposition requests. I cannot combine everything on one request, okay? So in the past with the paper forms, if you've been combining everything on one form, technically that wasn't the right way to do it. The state has allowed you to get away with it, and a lot of times they allowed you to submit different record series and different retention schedules on a form, but now with Artemis, you're going to be forced to do a separate disposition request for each schedule, for the record series on each schedule. So you can have multiple disposition requests going. You can have multiple for the same retention schedule based on what you're doing, and maybe one person's working on one, somebody's working on another. That's absolutely fine. You can have many disposition requests working. But once you go into this list of requests, at that point in time, you can click on the edit button, okay? And what you'll do is you'll just open up that request again, and now you can continue to work on it. I can add more record series to this list. I can delete. I can edit the dates. I can do all my functions on this record series, okay? And like I said, there is no limit to the amount of line items. Now, I would caution you that when you are doing disposition requests, don't go crazy and don't go ahead and do, you know, disposition requests for 500, and not 500, for 50 or 100 line items. And here's the reason why. If this gets submitted to the state and there's a bunch of record series that are on that request that you submit that end up having to be rejected, the state can end up rejecting the whole request, and now you have to start all over and do everything again. So if you manage them and you do, you know, requests, typically most requests are 5 to 20 line items. That's a manageable request, both for the state level and both for you, because if something does get rejected, you're going to have to go back in and create a new request for those items, you know, for whatever reason the other ones were rejected, and so on and so forth. So again, I would just keep it manageable. But again, the system, like I said, I've seen requests as high as over 400 line items submitted on a request, okay? So again, just go in there and update your request as you go forward. Okay, so now I'm at the point that I've done my request, I've got all my line items on there, I want to submit this request. Well, how do I submit this request? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to get the form, right, to get our signatures. So in the lower right-hand corner, there is a print button here. So click on that print button. And what that's going to do is that's going to open up a PDF version of my form. Okay, so give it a second here to pop up. Okay, you should see that coming up. And there's my disposition form currently filled out for me, right? So if you take a look, right, All the information is filled out. This is the request ID. This is right here. This is the number of the request number. Okay, so you'll hear that number frequently. That's the actual number for this form. But then you'll see my record series down below, all filled in. At this point in time, what you need to do is you need to print out this form, and now you need to get your signatures. You will need, same rules apply. You need at least 2 signatures from your organization. You as the requester will sign in box 3. In box 4, you'll have whoever your second signature is, whether it's your BA, custodian, whoever, somebody else obviously from your organization has to sign off on it. If there's any record series that require an auditor's signature, or you just in general send it to the auditor, that's fine. You'll send this to the auditor. The auditor will sign down in section 15. They'll sign and date it. And then once you have all your signatures back, okay, then it's time to actually upload that scanned form into the system, okay, and then submit that request to the state. Now, you'll notice one thing. Right now, in the middle of my screen at the bottom, there's a submit button here, and it's grayed out. The reason for that is I have not uploaded my signed form in the system. The system knows that I don't have a form uploaded into the system. So it will not allow you to submit this to the state until you have that form in the system. Okay? So again, at this point in time, I printed out my form, and now I've sent it out to get signatures, and I'm just waiting to get all my signatures back before I scan that form and upload it into the system. So I'm going to pause there before I get to the upload section, and I just want to see what kind of questions I have here real quick. Okay, so one of the questions that came in from Gail was, she said, Board of Education does not adhere to the calendar year in most instances. We are a July 1st to June 30th calendar year. Do we still use January to December? Payroll, of course, is different. I would say, however you've been doing it, you just continue to do it the same way. So if you use a July 1st to June 30th as your year range, okay, you know, that's fine. I think the only thing that might come up, and again, we might have to make a change to the system, is that as I used that one example where it was telling me that I cannot submit or dispose until 12/31, my understanding of the state guidelines was it didn't matter what organization it applied to. It was always the last day of the calendar year that people can get rid of it. But again, there might be an exception for Board of Ed, so we'll have to get clarification on that from somebody at the state. So again, but right now I would say utilize what you've been doing. I mean, if it's been working and they've been getting approved, I would say utilize, you know, do the same thing that you've been doing. Use, you know, July 1st of a particular year through 6/30 of a particular year. That should work. The next question, with regards to cubic feet, it is acceptable that one banker's box is equivalent to 1 cubic foot. That is correct. Okay. Now, one thing I should have pointed out real quick, let me just kind of move this to the side here, is that if you don't fill up a whole box, we do have a drop down here that you can pick increments of a box. So let's say I had 2.5 boxes of agendas and minutes. I can actually pick 2.5 or 2.25 or 2.75. So I can go down as small as a quarter of a box that particular record filled out. You know, as most people know, when they're, you know, filling that cubic feet out, it's really kind of a guesstimation. It's not an accurate number. You want to try to be as accurate as possible, but you want to be as close as possible. So just try to use your best guess when you're filling it out. So yes, a 1 cubic foot box, if you have 10 boxes, you're just going to put 10 in this section right here and list them as 10 cubic feet. Somebody said that, oh, they left, so, okay. Only seeing the login page, not seeing agency records. Oh, that was an hour ago. Okay, so let me get rid of some of these older messages real quick. Okay, so let me continue. So now I cleared up my messages. Okay, so now we're at this screen. I sent my form out. I've got my signatures. I'm now ready to get the signed form into the system. Now, I will let you know, as of today, okay, and this is the process that's been being done for the last 7 years, even with the counties and the municipalities. You have to scan that signed form and upload it into the system. We are currently working on an electronic signature option that you'll electronically be able to sign these forms. Yourself as the requester, your approver, your custodian, whoever your second signature is, and even your auditor will be able to electronically sign you, so you don't have to print out any paper. and this will become a totally 100% paperless system. That is scheduled for sometime in the fourth quarter of this year to be ready. So again, as of today, if you have stuff that you're going to be doing once you first get into the system, you know, maybe in a week or two, you'll have to do it the way that I'm going to show you now. But I just wanted to let you know that electronic signature process is coming. It's still probably a few months out for that to be finally rolled out to everybody. But at that point in time, you'll be notified, and then, you know, we'll have a training video on how to set up the electronic signature part and how that whole process works. But I have my form in my hand. Now what I'm going to do is on the screen in the lower left-hand corner, there's a button that says Disposition Form Image. Okay, I'm going to click on that button. What that's going to do is that's going to open up a new window. Come on. Come on, show me this window, please. Okay. Give me 1 second to bring this window up here. Hold on. Let's try this one more time. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can show you this window here. Why is it not showing me? Bear with me 1 second because it's not cooperating with me. I'm going to close this. Close that. Close that. That in a second. Let's go back here. Here. Okay, so let's see now if I can get this to show you. Sorry about that. My webinar thing is not cooperating with me right now because I have a window that's opening up, and for some reason it's not opening. Okay, I think you should be seeing this window, hopefully. Let's see here. Okay, so let's see. I'm trying to see if you're seeing what I'm seeing here. No. Come on. Okay, I think now you see it. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so here's the pop-up window that came up. This is where we're actually going to upload our image here. So again, up at the top, really what you need to do is you're going to scan that form, like I said, most likely on your multifunction copier, scanner, printer. If you have a scanner on your computer, you use the scan software that comes with your scanner. But again, you have to scan that form in a TIFF format, black and white, and at least 300 DPI. Okay, and once you save that as a TIFF form, what you'll do is wherever you saved it on your network, okay, or your computer, you're going to click on the yellow folder upload icon in the upper left-hand corner. Okay, we will go out to the folder where it's at. So let me go to my folder here. Where's my folder, Artemis folder. Okay, I think it's not the right one that I'm looking, but I'll just pick this. This should be a disposition form. Okay. So again, it's not the exact one, but I just want to show you. So it's a disposition form that's been signed. Okay. So once I see that disposition form here on the screen, okay, what I will do is, now what I'll do at the bottom of the screen is I'll click on Save. Okay. It's going to say that I certify that I read and understood all the scanning procedures from the state and da-da-da-da. We're just going to hit OK. Okay. And then once that's saved, up at the top it should say Image Saved Successfully. Now I can close this. Okay. Now I'm back at my other screen here. Okay. And you'll notice now that my Submit button is now enabled. Okay. Because now I have uploaded that scan form into the system, my Submit button is now enabled. And at this point in time, I can click on Submit. Again, you get a certification statement from the state. Okay. letting you know that once you submit this, no further changes can be made to this form. So be careful, because once you submit this form, you're not going to be able to edit this form at all, okay? It's now going to be a submitted form, okay? So let me hit OK. Okay, it's going to tell me that the status has been updated successfully, and the status is now saying submitted, okay? And at this point in time, I can't do anything else to this form. Now I wait for the state to go do their work. The state gets it in their queue, and they'll do their work. So what I'm going to do real quick here is, in my other system, I'm just going to quickly approve this one. Just came in here, and then I'll show you when it comes back. Submit it. Give me 1 second. Okay, so now I'm authorizing this request on the other system at the state level. And then when I refresh my screen in 1 second, we should see in the dashboard under disposition request authorized, we should see a 1 there. And that'll let you know when that request has been authorized. So, okay, so that's done. Let's come here, let's refresh this screen. Okay, so now, since I've now come back into the screen, now you'll notice that under disposition request authorized, this is no longer a 0, it's now a 1, okay? And at this point in time, what I can do is I can click on that. I'll go in, I'll take a look at my request, right? I'll view it. Now, one thing we recommend is that you go into each request and review and make sure that each line that you submitted, the status here says authorized. And the reason for that is the state could do what they call a conditional approval, which means is there could be certain line items that get rejected. So don't assume, even though your overall status says authorized, that every single line item on that request has been authorized. I would still recommend that you go in, you take a look at each line item and make sure it says authorized. Once it says authorized at that point in time, now you're at the point that you can go ahead and you can dispose of your records, okay? So let's say I got my authorization. Let's say now I went and I disposed of my records. My records have been, I had a shredding company come in. All my records have been shredded. There's one last step that you need to do within the system. And it's the same thing that you do on the paper form, except we do it in the system electronically. In the paper world, or today's world, okay, in the lower right-hand section in your disposition form, there's a section that says disposition. And what you would do is basically sign and date and say that you've destroyed those records, and then take that last copy of that 4-part form and send it back to the state to let them know that that request has been complete. Because remember, until you do that step, from the state's eyes, you still have the records. You have not completed the process. So until you let the state know that the records have been destroyed and that you sent that form back to them and let them know when they were destroyed, according to them, you still have the records, okay? So you have to make sure that you complete that step. Well, we do it electronically in the system, okay? And that's basically on this screen here. There's, in the middle of the screen, there's a button that says Update Disposition Status, right? We click on that button. This is where you'll need your PIN number, okay? So you put in your PIN number that you selected when you first registered in the system or were set up in the system. And then what happens is you have a little box that comes up here, okay? And it asks you basically to list the date that you disposed of the record. So I'm going to assume it was today, right? I did it today. But if you did it on a different date, make sure you put the date that you disposed of the records. And your destruction method, right? Shred is the first one because that's the most common one. But again, let's say these were tapes. You erased them or you recycled the stuff. People put their paper into recycling, okay? Or transfer to other. If you pick other, okay, you will have to put a comment of what your other destruction method is. And I'll give you an example. I have some municipalities down in Camden County that actually takes their records to the county incinerator, okay? and the incinerator actually gives them a certificate that the records have been destroyed, right? So that would be an other, and they would put in their county incinerator or dispose that county incinerator. But once you pick your method of destruction, what you'll do is you'll click on Save, and at that point in time, this now has become a complete request. And what you'll notice at the bottom of this request, okay, is here is your authorization. Let me get my little pen here so I can show you. Highlighter. Okay. Here's your authorization number, that request that the state gave you. That's the authorization number. The date it was authorized. Okay. Your final disposition was you shredded this, and the date. Oops, let me move over here. The date and who entered the information is listed there. So now this becomes a complete request. Okay. This is now complete at this point in time. There's nothing further you have to do with this request. Now, if you need to ever prove to anybody, that you have authorization to dispose of this, if you click on disposition form image, you'll always be able to get back to your original disposition form that you had in the system. This is a summary sheet of basically what was authorized, but on each form at the bottom, we annotate at the very bottom the date and the authorization number and all that at the very bottom of that form. Okay. So again, plus the signature from the director, Erwin at Dawn, his signature's on the form that you had authorization to dispose of those records. And that will always be in the system. That'll always be available to you. Now, if you want to print these out, you can go ahead and print them out. But again, it's always available to you within the system at any point in time. If I go back out to my home screen since I've completed this, okay, you'll notice that my authorized section is now to 0, right, because I've completed the process. But if you ever had to go back and search on a disposition request, under the disposition management, there's a search disposition section. Okay, we can click on that. And then I can pick any agency, I can pick any status. I want to see all the ones that have been completed. I click on search. Here are the ones that have been completed. Again, we just have one today, but I would get a full list. I could search a date range. So if I wanted to see all requests that were, submitted within a certain year, I can. We can look at different statuses, stuff that's ready for submission, works, submitted, so on and so forth. I can always look at those different statuses by going into the search disposition request. So again, that's how you would actually kind of come in here and search your request. But again, most of the time you want to kind of make sure that this inbox, except for the last item, are pretty much at zeros, right? If you see any numbers in there, it means there's currently something active in that particular step, and you kind of want to work through that particular step and take care of it or whatever. So I'm going to pause here at the end, see if there's any questions. It says, okay, so one question says, can we check on the status of pending paper requests through the system? All you could see, Brian, is that the request has been submitted. You cannot see where in the process at the state level that request is. Now, typically what might happen is if there's a problem with the request, the state will generally make a comment on their side, and they'll most likely email you or call you if there's a problem. But generally, what they try to do is these requests usually get turned around, I think now within a few days. So hold on, let me just give me one quick second here. Where's my attendees here? See if I have anybody from RMS on the line that can answer that question. RMS, are you still on the line?
Yeah.
Who's there, James?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yes, you have to speak up, James. I can hardly hear you. What is your current turnaround on disposition requests right now that you guys try to get these authorized?
2 to 3 days.
2 to 3 days. Okay, so when you submit a request through the Artemis system right now, they're trying to have these, some type of status associated with it. We're going to assume most likely approval, but they could be rejected within 2 to 3 days. Okay, so again, you'll notice that the process time should be a lot quicker than you've been dealing with in the paper world. Next question: do you have to send the document you received from the shredding company confirming your shredding? No, no. Once you've updated that disposition status, you could put in, you could even put in the comments the shredding company. But what I would do is I would keep that on file. I wouldn't, throw that away. But no, you don't have to send that to the state at that point in time. Next question: will we receive an email from you as to when we sign in or August 1st date, yes. I will talk to Nicole. She's the supervisor down there to let you know or send out an email to everybody once everything's ready to go. So you know when you can actually start, registering and start doing requests within the system. If I have other users enter the disposal information, is there a step whereby, as a custodian of records, has to verify or sign off to be submitted? Again, when you upload that disposition form, you're going to want to have signatures on there. So I don't know what your current process is within the system, in your workflow right now, of when a requester creates a request and who signs off on it. I mean, that process is pretty much going to be the same as it has been today. The only difference is instead of sending that disposition form in the mail, you're going to scan and upload into the system. Now, when we get to the electronic signature ability within the system, at that point in time, it's going to automatically go to the custodian or be forwarded over to the custodian to sign off. You won't be able to submit something to the state unless that custodian has signed off on. So we have some additional, I don't want to call it roadblocks, but we have additional, parameters in the system that won't allow that to be submitted until all those electronic signatures are obtained. So I hope that answers your question. If you still have a question, just let me know. The other question that came up is, do you receive an email saying that the user's request is ready to be processed? Again, when we do the electronic signatures, yes, you'll be getting emails to let you know that those requests are ready to be signed off on. Next question. I submitted a request end of May, early June, and have not heard back or received a response when call and email about status. Okay, that Representative Spivey, should I wait and try to resubmit through Artemis 8.1 for that request? I would say no, since that request is already in process. So if you've already submitted that to the state, I would, check with them again on that and see. But no, I wouldn't resubmit that unless for some reason they never received it and it was lost in the mail. At that point in time, yeah, you can go into Artemis and create a new request if you want to. Is there a procedure manual that we can access? Yes. As I mentioned earlier, up at the very top of the screen, upper right-hand corner, there is a help link. If you click on that help link, that will open up our online manual. And as I also mentioned as well, too, in the handouts that are available in the panel section under handouts, I do have a link in there to the training videos. Okay, so there are training videos up on YouTube. I think you can even do a search on YouTube for Artemis training videos, and I think it will come up that way as well, too. So, again, you can get to those videos or to the help manual, either one, through the system at that point in time. So those are the questions I have up to this point. Again, we're at the end of our webinar for today. If anybody else has any quick questions, feel free to just quickly in the chat section type them out so I can answer them. I will stay on a few extra minutes. I do thank everybody for attending today. I hope that once you start using the system, you'll see how much easier it is and how much quicker you'll get your responses back for your request. And like I said, once we have the e-signature functionality up and running, it'll even make it that much easier that we make this a totally 100% paperless process, and you'll be able to, at that point in time, submit, don't even have to print out any paper or get wet signatures. Everybody will be able to, electronically sign those requests and process those requests. So, like I said, I'll stay on a few more minutes. Oh, I see a couple of questions coming up. Somebody said, Grace said, I can't get the handouts. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure, Grace, why you can't get the handouts. I know it's in that panel. I think you have to hit the red arrow at the very top to expand the panel. And then there should be a section in that panel that says handouts. And I think you have to just click on the link, and it opens it up in Word. If not, you could send an email. I'll give you my email address. Actually, I'll put it in the chat here real quick. Let me go there. I'll give you my email address. So if anybody can't get to those attachments, just send me an email and just ask me, and I will email them back to you. So again, yeah, okay. Yeah, so one of the RMS staff put a response to say, if anybody, has a problem with the current status of their request, just give them a call and their request ID, and they'll be able to, help you with that. So I did just put my email into the chat, so you should be able to see it there. Everybody should be able to. Actually, hold on. Wait, sorry, my fault. I sent it to the wrong. Do that one more time. Sorry. Mark@sunrises.com. Okay, let me try it one more time. Now everybody should have my email address. So it's Mark with a K at sunrises.com. Okay, I'll just wait here to see if there's any more questions that come up. And like I said, we'll end this in a few minutes. Okay, everybody. It's 11:40. I know we've run over about 10 minutes here, and I don't have any other questions that have come in again. We will post once this recording is available on YouTube. We'll probably do it after all the sessions, so you'll be able to go back and review this one or any other recording. Like I said, the training videos will be available up there, and so on and so forth. So again, I want to thank you today for attending. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to, just, email me or call the RMS staff, and they'll be able to help you. So again, thanks for attending today, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.